a lot of new stuff. A new dad, new pastor, new pandemic. Because yeah, together we are the church, like they're saying today. We're not it's not the building. Together we are the church. So let's be united in prayer for our leadership here. Yeah, and I think that was the major points that I was to hit on. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up, so I'm going to pass it back.
Yeah, awesome, Luke. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for that. Luke is a wonderful, wonderful asset to our church board at the moment, and I hope he's in Kitchener for many, many years to come because he's so fun to work with. I'm going to try again now to pass it over to John for our financial update video. John?
Okay, I think this will work now. Sorry for the technical blunders here, but will take a minute though.
You're muted again, John. Is that intentional?
It's
okay.
Intentional.
Good day, and thank you for this opportunity to communicate with you. I'm Bruce Nicholson, chairperson of the board, and we had in the past said we were going to do our best to continue to communicate what the situation was, especially financially. First, I'd like to start off by saying, way to go, community. You have done well. Our giving of all of our talents, many of you recognize those who've given of their giftings, their time and energy, and you continue to give as God directs you in your tithes and offerings. Thank you for that. So this is meant to be a bit of a celebration. We used the newer budget approach this year in asking you to help with the projecting of what you plan to give, and using those numbers, it has been very helpful in the process. Through the months of March and April, we matched those numbers doing quite well, but then in May, it dropped off a bit and making us run a little closer to the line. In an attempt to do all the remedies that we can, we continue to approach the topics of one, application to the government for the subsidies that were made available for corporations that had lost revenue. We have also continued to work away with our transition plan, which technically will provide some financial relief when we go to the next stage of that plan into the fall, as John takes a look at going to part-time and Brad steps into the lead role. All of these things will provide some relief and readjustment, but we wanted to just make this point clear. You have done very well. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Continue to seek the Lord as to what your part is. If he has blessed you where you didn't expect, then you check it out with him to see if that's meant to be a gift to the community, and continue to seek the Lord. We ask your continued prayer too for our staff as they work through the challenges that have been provided by these unexpected times throughout COVID pandemic, and we'll stick together, hang in there, pray for one another, stand together, and make it through. So thank you again. Keep on doing the good thing you've been doing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bruce, for that. And thank you to, I believe Brad was also involved in holding the camera. So thank you, Brad. Right, the final piece of information that we want to convey as a board today was hinted at during the sermon slot, if you were with us on Facebook Live, which is that we want to use the asset that our building is, and we want to use it wisely. We know that reopening the building under COVID cleaning regulations, particularly, as well as the distancing regulation, will mean that it's a lot to open the door. We want to do that. We want to do that wisely. We want to do that well. So we will not be doing that immediately. The plan is to meet as board area leaders in time. We're going to take a total of 8 hours over a weekend to talk, to pray, to seek God as to how we use our building to effectively build our faith community. And what does that look like now? And it may look a lot like it used to, and it may look completely different. The other thing we want to talk about is, when should we do that? Should we do that quickly? Should we wait a long time before we do that? When is the best timing for that? So right now, we don't have all the answers on that. We wish we did. We wish that, as we've been meeting in our Zoom call on Friday, an angel of the Lord had joined the chat and said, I say to you from God that the plan is, but that didn't happen. I'm sure you're all shocked. So we will be meeting, we will be praying, and our goal as a team is to have a plan by July 15th, which we will then communicate to everyone so that everyone knows as much about that as we do. Unfortunately, at this point, that's all we know, is that we want to use our building well. We want to use our building wisely. We don't want our building to hit the press as the source of a COVID outbreak. That's actually really important to us, partly because we don't want the bad press, but also because we care about every single one of you. And if our building is the source of a COVID outbreak, that means that people we love and care deeply about, and probably who are on this call right now, are very ill. And we really, really don't want that. So we're working on it. At this point, those are the 3 big pieces of information that we wanted to share. You probably have all kinds of questions. If you do have a question, again, there's a chat button at the bottom of your screen. If you click on chat and type a message in, then we will answer the question. This is mostly to avoid having everyone unmute themselves at once and all talk at once and me not be able to hear anybody's questions. We do have one question on the table already, which I suspect is going to be best answered by either Brad or Kit. And the question is, have our costs and expenses changed at all with closing the building and COVID? Brad, do you have an answer on that one? Or
okay,
I believe
sorry.
we would have better numbers on that.
Okay. In the very beginning, our costs have actually gone up a bit. Some because of this and some not because of this. We had a big jump in our insurance costs this year. Initially in January, our insurance is bundled with the denomination. So while the denomination negotiated to try and get that lowered a bit, we put in a payment for the short term for that. And then at the end of March, we got the final payment on that, which was, I think, like $4,300. I don't have the exact number right now. We also had a furnace repair, a plumbing issue, and some pretty high snow clearing costs, which we negotiated to pay all of those over a 3-month. Everything for the insurance we had to pay within 2 months. Everything else we paid over 3 months. Just to make sure that we had the money to do those things during that time. Our building costs have gone down, obviously, because our utilities are lower, our electricity is lower, we're not using it. But we've also switched to QuickBooks Online. The first 6 months of the year, our costs are always high because we have to pay things like snow, We have to pay our insurances, and all of our renewals come in for things like using music. And we had some unexpected repairs this year with the furnace and the plumbing. So those expenses were quite high. Staff expenses, other than John and Brad, that have stayed the same, significantly lower. Tammy was not in the building cleaning it because there was nobody there. And I was working from home and working fewer hours because, well, everything was online. It was easier and more efficient for me to get some of my work done that way.
Okay, thank you, Kit. The next question that has popped up, I'm actually going to answer. The question was, what about the Arabic Church? The answer to what about the Arabic Church, John has communicated with the Arabic Church that we are not willing to have them in the building beyond what they're currently doing and have been all along. They've been doing the same kind of Facebook Live, a few people in the building live streaming their service that we have. Beyond that, we are not comfortable having them in the building until we are also sure that it can be done safely. So they have also been told that they will know by July 15th what our reopening plans are. The other part of that information, though, which I think is important, is that at the very beginning of COVID, they requested rent relief. And as a board, we waived their rent until September. So they are not paying for a facility we won't let them use, because that would be awful. That would just be wrong. So they've been given rent relief. They've also been told that they can't be back in the building until we believe it's safe to reopen. Does that answer your question, Ian? I'm getting a nod. Okay. There is a complete lack of questions down the right-hand side, which either means you guys all think we've communicated amazingly and you have no more questions, or it means that you're waiting and you're gonna all phone me at 2 o'clock this afternoon and say, what are you thinking? So, Chad apparently knows I'm not thinking. So the other piece of information that I will give you is that every one of you will be receiving a phone call by the end of this week from one of our 4 board members. Bruce Nicholson is our chair. The board also consists of me and Steph Schmidtke and Luke Cote. One of us will be phoning every single household affiliated with our church that we have a phone number for. There's a couple we don't have phone numbers for. They may be harder to contact. We'll do our best. But if we have a phone number for you, we will be contacting you this week to make sure that every household has heard this information, to make sure that the question that you have 5 minutes after we log off here, you get an answer to. We want to communicate as much as we can. Okay, we have a question has popped up, in fact, that says, what about children and youth ministry? Yeah, Brad, do you want to tackle that one?
Why not? Yeah, so children and youth is obviously a challenge generally to our community. It's specifically in this COVID time, we've been having a hard time finding ways to engage with what capacities we do have. One of the great amazing things is that we have had a few of our teens investing in the generation below. There's a online gathering Mondays for the tween girls. There's that's been our number one kind of thing that we've been doing well, I think, in the last little bit. And then on top of that, we have the video link, which one of the things is we don't get to do childcare or child investment the way that we once did as a church, where we have you guys, which are great leaders, investing in children in a room. And so knowing that that is a giant loss, we've been hoping to help parents, because that's also been the hardest category hit by the pandemic, is that they are now not only parents, persons, work employees, but they are also now teachers, daycare, activity engagement coordinators, and meal prep persons. And so we over the last few months have been reaching out to a bunch of the parents, trying to identify what they need. Because the ultimate picture is, once again, that parents should be discipling their children to different degrees, different abilities, and we want to help them, one, do well, because the better a parent is emotionally, physically, financially, all those things, the better they can be there for their children. And so we're kind of looking at the what can we do aspect, and we can't gather children. We can't run a Sunday school program. And we know that in the future that even like if we did reopen today is not even a possibility. So there is a lot of questions around how do we re-navigate children's ministry, youth ministry in a non-gathering culture or a small gathering culture. So we are also very open to ideas that are out there. If you are a passionate person that has come up with an idea of how we can do this, we'd love to get you going, get you engaged with some other people and see this, because our children and our youth are deeply cared for by their parents, but also us as a community. So we are very much open to new ideas, new creative ways. And if they fail, we're willing to fail because we want to do well for our children. If that answers it. If not, ask me a better question.
Yeah, I'm going to just quickly revisit Brad's willingness to fail as well. One of the things we all need to be aware of through this time is that we are trying new things. We are all trying things that we have never tried before because we have no choice, and we've got to step out. And a wise man said a couple of months ago that we have to stop trying to think outside the box because there is no box anymore. So with that in mind, I'm asking you all to be willing to be guinea pigs. Guinea pigs are lovely, cute, cuddly little creatures, and they will try just about anything once, which is why we have so many chewed cables in our house. So we would love for you to be willing to try new things with us and then give us feedback. If we try something and you think it's like the bestest thing we've ever done, and why didn't we do this years ago? Tell us, because we can't read your minds. If we try something and you just kind of go, oh, well, we want to know that too, because we can't read your minds, and we're going to have to try a lot of things that are new, and some of them are going to be great and some of them are going to flop, and we need your input and we need your grace to bear with us and try again when it doesn't work the first time. We need you to be willing guinea pigs and loving, praying, supportive guinea pigs, because that's what it's going to take to find our way through, I believe the appropriate journalistic term is unprecedented times. Yeah. Are there any, oh, okay, we have another question which says, will there be an investment in good audio-visual equipment for those who will not be able to physically attend? The answer to that is yes. We are researching which options will best fit our situation, and we do not want to do anything that would leave people out if they're not able to physically attend. Obviously, if we're meeting in a physical building, then we would need to have, you know, if we're, for example, we're actually able to gather for a potluck, we probably can't bring you your own special plate of food at home, but we don't want our community to leave people out just because they can't come into the building. And we are looking, Brad has spent a lot of time in the last week or so researching what options technically would be best for our situation, and that's part of why we are delaying reopening the building, is we don't want to leave people out. We don't want to become a two-tier community where there's the people who can meet and then the people who can't. We want it to include everyone, and that's part of why we have the delay as well, is to make sure that our tech stuff is up to the challenge of doing this properly. We also have a question on the table that says, are there any family small groups that involve or include the children? Steph, you're surrounded by kids. Do you want to tackle that one? Steph, is that you?
I don't quite know the answer to that. So
I'll hop in.
we've been, I mean, our Connect groups, our own kids kind of pop in and out of the Connect groups. I don't know, Brad, where are we at with that?
So we don't have specifically family small groups at this time. The groups that we have been mostly parents dropping in. Kids will say hi to each other, but it is, as I'm sure you know, as a parent, hard to wrangle kids in front of a screen for a conversation. One of the things that we are exploring, and we are trying to figure out how does in-person gatherings eventually also be an option. is we know that if we gather just together, it's going to be hard just to wrangle all the kids for that time, and the parents don't get to be engaged either. The kids might, and so we are looking towards establishing groups in more of a geographical way where kids can be more involved. But this is all preliminary sort of stuff where, one, we need leaders who can lead groups, and we also need to know what sort of needs are for each age bracket of kids. How can we access or make that accessible for them as well? I think Steph had another point.
Yeah, the other thing is Tucker and Rachel and Jessica Wormold had sent around an email to families with kids, asking them kind of what they thought they would like to see. So asking if they should do like some sort of online Sunday school thing or what. And what I heard from Tammy, who I don't see Tammy today, but what I heard from Tammy was that like they got like, I know I replied, but they really didn't get a lot of feedback when they sent out that email. So so check out your search your inbox for a note from Tucker. Sorry guys. This is why Zooms with children are so fun. Anyway, she can sit in my lap. She'll be quieter. Anyway, so find that email, or if you don't have it, ask Kit to find it and resend it to you, because they had some great ideas, and then it just sort of didn't go anywhere because they didn't hear from enough people about what they really wanted to give them some direction. But we know that area is kind of lacking right now.
Okay. Yeah, so basically the answer is we need to figure out what we're going to do with our children and our youth, because that's important. The next question, we have a question that says, what about an outdoor gathering with our excellent property? And the answer to that is, yeah, it's definitely something that's on the table that we are considering. We need to be aware of the assorted limitations around, are we allowed groups of more than 10? Well, if it's a worship service, yes. If it's not a worship service, no. But certainly using our outdoor property is something that we are talking about doing, particularly during the nice weather. One of the things that seems very clear about the COVID virus is that it transmits far more effectively indoors than outdoors. And so gathering outdoors is definitely an option that's on the table. Yeah.
I'll just toss in a little bit more. We also want to hold that well, knowing that not everybody will come to a gathering outdoors. I think we'd be more inclined to see some of you come to that. But when we do that gathering, say it's a Sunday gathering or something else. Actually, next Saturday, we do have an outdoor gathering. We are doing a yard cleanup or street cleanup. Mm-hmm. So yes, we actually are doing outdoor stuff. But if we're looking at a gathering in the ways that we often have, we don't want to do it in a way that we also miss the hybrid part. So we are waiting on some technology to actually come through the mail. It was back ordered. So there's a few things that will also make that a possibility as we look to go in a digital hybrid as well. So thank you for that as well.
Bathrooms are always a big tricky thing, right? We can be outdoors and keep our distance from each other, and that's awesome. But then what happens when people need the washroom? So figure that out.
And Brad just left. It's almost like, anyway, we're going to leave that alone. Okay, there's a question that I'm going to jump out of order here on these things. Someone has asked, will there be anything to celebrate John and Judy's ministry at Stanley Park Community Church? There's an answer in the chat already that says there will absolutely be a celebration for John and Judy. To expand on the absolutely yes, of course, just a little bit, we have not at this point got a firm end date for John's ministry here. Planning in unprecedented times is complicated, and we want to make sure that John is able to end well, that we get the timing as close to right as we can. We want to mark John and Judy's ministry at Stanley Park Community Church with a huge party where everyone can give them a great big hug goodbye, and we can have a good Stanley Park potluck. And we also know that that might not be possible for several years after he actually retires, depending on how all the timing on this plays out. So, do we want to celebrate their ministry? Absolutely. Brad's put a really optimistic date of 2035 for that. We love you, Brad. So yeah, we absolutely want to celebrate their ministry. We don't know at this point what that can look like. It may be that when they actually retire, we do a Zoom call like this and each take a chance to say what we love about John and Judy. And then we have them come back a couple of years later and do a potluck party in person when it's safe to do that. So we don't know yet what it'll look like, but absolutely it is really important to mark that in some way. And if you have super creative ideas about how that could be marked, please email me or Kit, because we want those ideas. We're right back to guinea pigs. How do you celebrate retirement when you can't celebrate in person? Let's be guinea pigs. Let's look at ideas. I'm going to throw this next question over to Brad. The question is, what are we doing to develop leaders for our small groups?
Brilliant question. No. Yeah, at this, like we were talking about, not just rushing into things because we can. And so we as a leadership all talked about, we need to see everybody in a group because we know that that is such an important thing for your spiritual development, everybody's spiritual development, and that is a large part of church. But we also knew that if we just rush to start a whole bunch of groups without investing in leaders, we aren't really investing in the church. And so what we have done is we've invited people. We've already got our area leaders and board going through the Abide material from the church renewal. And we have now opened the door to the next people that have been leading groups and people that we see being future leaders. And we've asked them to join. So we now, as of this coming week, are going to be having 2 more groups of people that we are investing to help them grow in their leadership, to help them grow in their spiritual faith, and be people that we want instilling in other people's lives. Because a leader really does matter to a community, and we don't want to just throw people in trial by fire that way without investing. And I think that's even been part of looking at why we're not trying to just throw John out and hop me in, is that we really want to invest in leaders as a community. And so we're trying this on multiple levels to respond to the issues as fast as possible, but not to let the urgent outweigh the strategic. And so that is what we're doing with investing in our leaders at this time. I think we have, I'm going to say 13, a number might be one up, one down, 13 people that we are now working through to invest in these groups, to then see how that can be a church movement as we reconfigure and regather.
The next question on the table is, how often are the leadership meeting and what is the focus of those meetings? The answer is that about 2 weeks into the shutdown, we realized that the board and area leaders needed to be meeting a lot more often and needed to be meeting together so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing and we can absolutely communicate with each other as much and as clearly as possible. So every single Friday, we have a 45-minute leaders meeting on Zoom because we can't gather in person, but we have been meeting by Zoom every Friday to talk about generally one specific area of the church and what we need to do. So we spent 45 minutes talking about small groups. We spent 45 minutes talking about what do we do with children? What do we do with the transition? We've talked through a lot of different things. We cycle back to topics because they need to be revisited. It's also been pointed out that we should make sure everyone knows who all our leaders are. So I've introduced the board once already on this call. I'm going to do it again. Bruce Nicholson is our esteemed chairperson and a steady hand and a wise voice. I am also on the board. Stephanie Schmidtke is on the board, and Luke Cote is on our board. We also have area leaders. Kit Sonoda is in charge of social connections. Her husband, Rob, has taken on our facilities, which his facilities updates have been absolutely awesome lately. They tend to consist of 3 words: building, still, standing. Not a lot happening in the building these days. Linda Wormold is our outreach person, and she does a great job coming up with ideas. Our whole eat, pray, love, the idea of bring your neighbor some food, pray for your neighbors, love your neighbors, that came out of her. Tammy Sutton is our community care person. If you know someone who has had a baby, has had a crisis, could do with some meals dropping off, could do with some love and care, Tammy is your person to talk to. And I have this vague feeling that sorry. John Pierce is still our worship area leader at this time. Steph, did I miss someone? Oh, Brad. We've all met Brad. Brad and John are, of course, very much part of our leadership team meetings. Brad has been looking after small groups and also children's ministries with an emphasis on small groups recently as we try and get our Connect groups up and running and get as many people connected that way as possible. And this is where I put in another plug. If you are not currently part of a Connect group or an Abide group or some kind of small group meeting regularly, John has a group on Tuesday mornings. If you're not doing that at the moment, pray about it. Pray about whether there's time and space in your schedule. It doesn't have to be an evening. It doesn't have to be a weekend. You know, if we have 5 people who want to do Wednesday morning at 6 a.m., let's do it. Let's get creative about when people are available, when meetings fit. Kit's excited about the 6 a.m. concept. Yeah, so consider a small group. It's a good way to connect in. Okay, my question bar has gone quiet. So at this point, Luke, would you be willing to close in prayer for us? I think we're done. Just in time for lunch. So Luke.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. Oh,
No, you're good.
not another question. Yeah. Just a snarky comment. Okay, let me pray. Yeah, God, you are good, and we praise you for that. Yeah, God, I've been praying this a lot recently, but in this unknown, in this chaos, remind us of your faithfulness, of your steadfastness, God, that you don't change, that this didn't catch you by surprise, that your kingdom is still coming, that your church is still being established, despite the chaos going on in the world, God, and help us to plant our feet on you, on the hope that you've given us. Yeah, ask that your Spirit would lead our decisions during these times, our prayers during these times, and that we would come through this as a more united church, a church that's more passionate about you and the work that you're doing. Yeah, God, we praise you for your love, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.